Hello, football fans. Welcome to another episode of Football Talk with John and Evan. I'm your host, John Justin Jankowski with Evan Knows His Football Bonner. Now, I know we told you last week that Evan and I were going to do the podcast from the same area. But Evan and I yesterday were talking when we were hanging out in the Philadelphia suburbs. We're not going to tell everyone where Evan lives, but in the Philly suburbs, that we just didn't like the idea of doing this week's episode without talking about the NBA draft lottery, since that was probably the biggest Philadelphia sports news this week. I called an audible at the line, like the great Carson Wentz always does, and we decided to do the podcast right after the NBA draft lottery results. So we're actually going to change things up a little bit, and we're going to talk NBA draft lottery first instead of football. I know it's a little different than what you guys are used to, but that's all the talk in Philly sports right now. So, Evan, just first off, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, John. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing great. Okay, I got my Philadelphia 76ers shirt on, so let's go right into it. NBA draft lottery was tonight. Fans got to find out where the teams that didn't make the playoffs besides the Celtics got to pick in the NBA draft. Sixers were going into this as the four, and they moved up a spot to the 3. And if you look at it, the Sixers had a pick swap where they could actually switch with the Kings if the Kings had a better pick. Now, the Sixers got this pick swap when they just took 2 salary dump contracts a couple years ago and actually got Nick Stauskas in the deal. And the Sixers also have an unprotected Kings pick in the 2019 draft. Sixers would have got the 5th pick if it wasn't for the pick swap. And the Sixers are able to get into the commercial break. And going into commercial break, as everyone that has watched the NBA draft lottery the last couple of years, first overall pick, once you get past that commercial break, and for the second straight year, it was the Celtics, Lakers, and the Philadelphia 76ers. Technically the Kings, but the Sixers had the pick. And bad news for Sixers fans. They didn't get the first pick. They didn't get the second pick. They ended up with the 3rd pick. Third time we've seen in the last 4 years that the Sixers ending up with the 3rd pick. Very underwhelming, too, after all the fans were so excited that Sam Hinkie's pick swap worked. But the other positive, even though the Lakers didn't fall out of the top 3, the 3 pick this year, the Lakers pick next year, and the Kings' first-round pick in 2019. So even if the Sixers make the playoffs the next 2 years, they're still going to be part of the NBA draft lottery unless somehow the Lakers and Kings make the playoffs in the next 2 years. But, Evan, what was your reaction to watching the draft lottery party?
Sorry, John, I didn't hear you. I think you cut out earlier.
What was your reaction to just watching the ping pong balls tonight and the cards flip over?
Oh, well, honestly, I was both disappointed and excited at the same time. And what I mean by that is, obviously I was disappointed we didn't get the first overall pick. I thought that would have been really nice. But I am excited that we got the 3rd pick, got the second one, because that one had nothing to do with Lonzo Ball. So when you put all that together, I'm pretty happy, all things considered. I definitely want a shooter, and I don't think we're going to end up with Falk. So I don't know if we're going to get that in one of the top 3 picks. I'm certainly a little worried about where they're going to go. But as long as we come out with a shooter and as long as we don't have Lonzo Ball, I think I'll be happy, John.
Now, this is where it gets interesting because Markelle Fultz is obviously the first overall pick. Does Boston stay there? Because the interesting with Boston is they got Avery Bradley, they got Isaiah Thomas. They already got their guard situation figured out. Fultz at 1 if you're Boston, and he's your backup? I know, he's guaranteed contract for 4 years. You can trade Isaiah, maybe. Maybe you don't re-sign Isaiah in 2 years. Maybe you don't keep Bradley. But Boston's
John, are you telling me they're going to trade their best player in the Eastern Conference, who took them to the Eastern Conference Finals, for a maybe player?
Down the road. I'm just saying, Boston's in the spot here where, what do they do with it? What do you think Boston's going to do? Do you think they trade this first overall pick? Do they bench the first overall pick? What are they going to do with this?
I don't know, John. I think there's a couple different schools of thought. Obviously, neither one of us are that invested with the Boston Celtics, nor are we Boston Celtics fans. But what I will tell you, John, is they're going to do what's best for their franchise. And I think we can both agree that Isaiah Thomas is probably the main reason why this team has turned around and is currently in the Eastern Conference Finals. And I don't see a situation where they get rid of him. So if you are looking to pick up Lonzo Ball or Falk, who knows what happens there? I do to a degree, like we talked about in the football, in our football draft podcast, that you do need to take the best player available. However, when you have an all-star, franchise-altering point guard already in Isaiah Thomas, I do think you might have to look elsewhere. I do think it's certainly more realistic that this team goes and trades the first pick than they would trade Isaiah Thomas. I don't see a situation where they would feel like they could improve off of an already elite player. So I'm not seeing how they do that. I'm not as nearly in touch with the NBA as I am the NFL. So I'm not entirely sure who they'd pick, if not those first two guards. But I'll tell you right now that they're not going to move on from Isaiah Thomas because they got this pick.
Now, one thing that I'm hoping that Sixers fans should hope is they're, like you said, they got Bradley and Isaiah Thomas. Do they take Josh Jackson at 1? Ball goes to LA at 2. And Fultz goes to 3 to Philly. Any chance of that happening?
Oh, excuse me, Don. Can you repeat that real quick? Your audio is cutting out.
I think a dream scenario for the Sixer fans would be the Celtics say, hey, we already got guards. We're taking Josh Jackson, who's the best forward. They take Jackson at 1. LA's got to take Ball. And
why does LA have to take Ball?
They love Ball. I mean, he's the LA kid. I mean, it writes itself. I mean, it's set in stone. Ball's going to the Lakers.
Well, I don't know if anything's ever set in stone, John, but that certainly could be a dream situation for the Sixers if they ended up without Falk. But they just need shooters, John. They just need shooters. So if it isn't Falk, it's there was another who was supposed to be the 5th overall pick.
Malik Monk
or Falk. That's who I want. So however you dice it, as long as you come out of this with the shooter, I'll be happy.
Now, do you take Malik Monk at number 3? That's a real reach for Monk.
So what do you want? Another center?
It seems like the Sixers are going to end up with 6'8" forward from Kansas, Josh Jackson. Now,
and where would they play him?
He played at 3.
Oh, where does Ben Simmons play?
Ben Simmons, have been saying this whole podcast he's going to be the point guard.
I don't know, John. I don't know. That to me doesn't seem right. This team needs shooters. They have size. They have athleticism. Ben Simmons might be a 1 right now, but he probably won't be there long term. You already have your center. Yeah, you have a swing guy in Robert Covington who's serviceable, and you have depth.
Well, I think maybe Jackson may be a sign that Covington doesn't come back.
Well, yeah, obviously, if you can upgrade from that position, that would be great. But in my mind, I would be really disappointed if you walked away from this pick and not brought in a shooter. I don't understand why picking somebody 2 spots earlier would be a crazy. That to me just sounds like we're overthinking it a little bit. It is what it is. In my mind, I think having a shooter is so important that it trumps the best player available right here. You have your franchise guy in Embiid. You have a potential LeBron, not saying he is, floor general, playmaker in Ben Simmons. You have a lot of nice other pieces around them. I mean, the one thing this team does not have is a shooter. I mean, I'm also a believer in TJ McConnell. So in my mind, if you go after another swing man who is more of an athlete than he is a set shooter, and you go another year without a real shooter, in my mind, it doesn't really matter how good of a ball handler Ben Simmons is or how well Joel Embiid collapses a defense if there's no one to shoot on the perimeter. So in my mind, that's so important. And I just think Monk would fit that role, if not Falk really well. So I just don't see why we're overthinking this, John. Like, why are we so obsessed with how ESPN or NBA.com ranks players, and that we're gonna cut off our nose to spite our face? I mean, John, that thought process is why we ended up with Julio Okafor over Kristaps Porzingis. I remember reading an article before that draft saying that the Sixers and thinking towards Kristaps Porzingis, but can't take over Kristaps. That's a reach, this or that. And now we're stuck with Julio Okafor isn't bringing anything. And now we're about to make the same mistake again. I don't understand.
I don't think 1 and 3 is staying the same. I honestly think the Celtics or Sixers, they're going to trade the pick. They're going to trade. One of them's trading down, or one of them's trading for a player. I don't think this 1 through 3 is staying. Because I agree with you. The Sixers obviously need shooters, and there's no shooters at 3.
Well, I mean,
they can work out
a shooter at 5, so there's a shooter at 3. I mean, again, John, I mean, we're basically telling us that, how wrong were we in the NFL mock draft based off of what experts were doing? We admit that we were wrong. We admit that the mock draft doesn't mean anything. And then you're saying 3, but there certainly is a 3. You just don't seem to want to take them based off of what some random expert who's really just a glorified fan thinks.
The advantage of having
so easy, and we're making this is so easy, and we're making it into something that it isn't because we're afraid to make a mistake. Being afraid to make a mistake, John, is how you end up with Julio Okafor over Kristaps Porzingis, and we're doing the same thing again.
The advantage of having 3, though, is there's teams that want Jackson, there's teams that want De'Aaron Fox, like Jackson.
And I want a shooter.
Yeah, and the Kings want.
That's it.
So if you trade with them, maybe you can get more stuff.
Well, you want Porzingis now with the third overall pick?
No, what I'm saying is the Suns want Jackson at 4.
Yeah.
Since we have the 3 pick, the Sixers could get something from the Suns and move down the 4.
If it's not Devin Booker, I'm not having that conversation. Just take the shooter. So easy, John. And we're making it so complicated.
Well, why don't you try to get Monk in something else?
I mean, is that really realistic, or are we just having a talking point? I just don't see.
No, I think it's realistic because Jackson, Aaron Fox is who the Kings want, and they're at 4 and 5, and there's not a guarantee that they get Jackson or Fox. So I think the Kings and the Suns may play with the Sixers to make sure they get Fox for the Kings and Jackson for the Suns.
Well, what are they offering, John? If it's not Devin Booker, I'm not having a conversation with the Phoenix Suns.
But, I mean, the lottery just ended. But I'm just saying, I could see the Sixers trading down. I could honestly see that happening.
I don't know. I think you have a perfect spot to go get a shooter and in Monk. And, who cares if he's 2 spots too early based on a couple fanboys mock drafts. Go get what you need. You so desperately need a shooter. Don't overthink it. Just get it done. Steph Curry, John, was the 7th overall pick. You need it. I mean, who cares what a mock draft says? I mean, we literally just had this conversation 2 shows ago about how wrong mock drafts are. And now 2 weeks later, again, we're obsessing over mock drafts. Go take the player you need. Go take the shooter. Don't worry about it unless you get Devin Booker.
So basically, our big board.
If the Suns want to give up Devin Booker, then sure.
So our big board should honestly, in your mind, should be Fultz, Monk. That's it. That's the Sixers' big board, and just keep it at that.
I mean, I think it's just so obvious. I mean, what else does this team need right now, John? You theoretically have a point guard, neither TJ or Ben Simmons, and you have a playmaker at those positions. You have a dominant center, and you have a lot of nice pieces around those guys. I just don't understand Dario Star, extremely upside scorer, you have him. You have Joel Embiid, who's a great all-around center, potentially a dominant, Shaquille O'Neal type center in a couple years. You have a potential, Ben looks transition, push the floor, playmaker in Ben Simmons. You have all these things, and you even have Robert Covington, who's a nice, okay wing player / streaky shooter. I mean, you have all these things which you don't have as a consistent shooter. And we're over, and I think it's these pie in the sky dreams that we're like, oh, well, maybe we can get more, and we're just ignoring what's right in our face. We have these two elite shooters. You're going to end up with one of them. Who cares what a mock draft says? We just learned this lesson, and 2 weeks later, we're having another discussion obsessing about mock drafts. I just don't get it. I don't get it.
We want to hear from you, the fans. Who do you guys want the Sixers to take at 3? Do you want the Sixers to try to get more with the 3 pick and try to trade? Who do you want the Sixers to get at 3? Share this link on Facebook. Share this link on Twitter. We got about a month plus until the NBA draft. The NBA draft is on June 22nd, Evan. What's that?
That's my birthday. That is my birthday. That's my 27th birthday.
So the Sixers are it's going to be your birthday. That's a Thursday night. Watching the draft?
Oh, I'm sure I will. I mean, I don't know exactly what I'll be doing yet, but I'm sure at some point I'll have my eye on the draft. So I'll definitely be checking it out. If you don't end up with a shooter, you're going to ruin my birthday. So, Colangelo. Thing. Just to get
this is a birthday fun fact for my family and Evan's family. My dad's birthday is June 23rd, so for the Bonner Jankowski household, you got Evan's birthday on June 22nd and my dad's birthday on June 23rd. So back-to-back big birthdays in the country.
That's bananas, John. Happy birthday, Mr. Jankowski, in a month and a half.
Yep, but Evan and I for the next couple of weeks are going to be talking about what the Sixers are going to be doing at 3, and obviously there's going to be a new rumor each week that, this is happening, this is happening. And Evan's going to have the same response, just end up with a shooter, but we're going to talk plenty of NBA draft in the next couple of weeks. But let's get into football. We are a football talk show. The big Eagles news is Sidney Jones updated the Philadelphia media about what's going on with his injury. And basically what he said is trust the process kind of thing. We're going to take it like day by day. And he's going to return to Washington to rehab. And we should know more in June when he comes back to camp with the Eagles. And obviously we won't really know anything until October because that's when the Eagles got to decide do we want to keep him on the DL for the year. But it wasn't really much to say, but they're not going to rush anything, but they weren't ruling anything out either.
Well, John, like I said, be careful what you wished for with Sidney Jones because you just might get it. And John was talking about how much he wished he were going to get Sidney Jones, and now it's like, is he going to be ready in October? Are they going to pull him for the season? Is he going to be on the PUP? Are they going to put him on, the injury reserve for the whole year? It's all, this who knows cluster poop of stuff. And I just don't know what we're going to get out of him even when he comes back. So obviously, John, what I'm trying to say is I almost feel like it's a moot point even talking about it because it's not like we're going to get an interview with a doctor who has anything real to say. And Sidney Jones is going to basically just give you the politically correct answer from now basically until October. And I just think realistically, them bringing him back is going to have a lot to do with where are they in the season. If they feel like the offense is clicking and Carson Wentz is doing well and Derek Barnett's playing well and they're getting after the quarterback and the defense looks like they're a piece away and Sidney Jones looks like he's about 100%, then I think they're going to roll the dice. I think they're going to play him. But if come October, they're like, here's the other thing. It's like, when in October is he going to come back? Is it the first week in October? Is it the last week in October? I mean, that's it.
I think it's week 6 they got to
You said
decide.
week 6?
I think it's either the week 6 or after week 16 decide the player has to go on the DL for the season.
So I mean, so I think a lot of that's gonna. I think it's gonna come down to two main things: is how healthy is Sidney Jones looking right now, and where are the Eagles? You know, if the Eagles are 1-5, you're not going to see Sidney Jones this year. If the Eagles are 5-1 and they're struggling a little in their pass defense, and Carson Wentz is killing it, and they feel like they can make a push this year, then I think you're going to see Sidney Jones. If it's a weird mix of they're 500 and the pass defense isn't playing all that great, then I think it's a little bit more up in the air. But, John, here's another thing. If Rasul Douglas plays well and Jalen Mills plays well and your boy Patrick Robinson's playing well, John's favorite player, and they're 6-0 and they feel like we don't need Sidney Jones right now, then they're not going to play him. So there are so many different things. I tend to believe, and I've said this before, with an Achilles injury, I know it's a high Achilles. I know John's going to make every excuse in the world to tell you why this is a good pick or why he'll come back healthy. And at the end of the day is I think the first, however long it takes from March until October, even if he comes back 100% physically, there's that mental side he's going to have to battle. And then so even if they take him off the PUP list or physically unable to perform non-football injury or part-time, or a whatever it's called, injury reserve designated to return list, however they want to go with it, I think it's going to come down to where is he physically, where is he mentally, where is the team, and how are the cornerbacks playing. And I think it all has to match up with they feel like they're in contention. Particularly if Rasul Douglas is well, even if they're not going to play him. I just think it comes down to that, and there's so many moving parts in this. I mean, and then on top of that, John, we've talked about this before. He's playing cornerback. He's got to push off that Achilles, play in space, be an athlete, an hyper athlete all the time. And Sidney Jones isn't going to be playing in the slot. They're not going to put him on the backside. They're going to line him up and to the quarterback's strong side and have him match up against Odell Beckham Jr. and Dez Bryant and Terrell Pryor and, Amari Cooper, all these other receivers, and he's going to have to draft him to do. And I don't know. Basically, John, I'm going a long way around the barn to tell you, John, that I think it's more realistic than not that we're not going to see Sidney Jones at all this year. And I think even next year, we're not going to see Sidney at 100%. We're talking year 3. And if you go back to our previous shows, this is why I didn't want Sidney Jones.
I agree with you on the first part. Sidney Jones ain't playing this year. I mean, that's just me as a Philadelphia sports fan. I've seen this happen. Take the injured player. Don't expect Jones this year. He's playing next year. He's starting next year. Him and Douglas on the outside next year. If there's talk of him being able to play in October, he's not playing this year. I'm going with that, but he's definitely starting next year. But what else Jones said, I'll also know what else he said in the press conference. He says he's going to do non-physical practice. So he says he's going to watch film, he's going to learn the playbook. So at least that's good news for Eagle fans. He's going to be studying up on the Eagles defense at least. But he's going back to Washington, coming back to Philly in June. Boot comes off in a week. So there's the update on Sidney Jones. Next Eagles topic we're going to talk about, Brandon Graham is talking about him holding out now. Obviously, the camps that are happening right now this past week were voluntary. No players had to be at them. But because going into this offseason, he was the Eagles' best defensive end. They brought in Long. The Eagles drafted, and Vinny Curry's making lots and lots of money, and he's not living up to that salary. So it makes sense that Graham wants more money because he may be a little worried he may not be I mean, he is the starter, but I mean, I can see where him wanting more money is coming from with the defensive end moves the Eagles have made. Now, this is reporting from the Philadelphia Inquirer. The Philadelphia Inquirer, Doug Peterson saying a lot of this is out of my hands. This is Doug Peterson. Peterson did not say Graham would attend organized team activities in 2 weeks. This is the Philadelphia Inquirer once again reporting this. Doug Peterson told the Philly Inquirer, he and I have had conversations, as I do with lots of players. Again, the expectation is, would I like him here? Yeah, but voluntary, I got it. But at the same time, veteran player understands his role, understands his assignment from him this season. Now, that was Doug Peterson talking about the Graham situation to the Philly Inquirer. So we look at Brandon Graham's stats last year. Played in all 16 games, had 41 tackles, 2 forced fumbles, 5.5 sacks. You obviously want him starting this year. But what do you think's happening with Brandon Graham? Do you think this is just slow news in Philadelphia?
Oh, John,
he's going to show up and.
This is so typically, just May football news. They have nothing else to talk about. Brandon Graham has even come out and called this fake news. And I think he's been in Philadelphia relatively recently. So, I mean, if he's saying he's not holding out, if I really buy this, I also know that it is May. And even if he says he's holding out now, he could change his mind. And even if he says he isn't holding out now, he could change his mind. I do agree with what you're saying, Johnny. Probably is the Eagles' best defensive. And there were times he was probably the Eagles' best defensive player last year. And you can't just look at the 5.5 sacks and say, oh, he's this defensive end, he's that defensive end. First of all, he's a left side defensive end, which means the quarterback's going to drop back and see him to his strong hand more often than not. And Brandon Graham's really there to be a push-up in the pocket type guy, high energy, good against the run. You put all that together, and he's one heck of a defensive end. And I think he matches beautifully with Derek Barnett, who's a little bit more of a pure pass rusher, who also plays the run very well, but he has a better array of moves. He's a more natural pass rusher. I think he'll get to the quarterback a little bit better than Brandon Graham does. Now, John, what I think is interesting is they did sign Chris Long, and you still have Marcus Smith under contract, and you still have Vinny Curry, and I think we can both agree they're not moving on from Vinny Curry from a financial standpoint this year. And who knows what's going to happen with Chris Long or Marcus Smith. But one thing that I do think is, honestly, I wouldn't mind giving Marcus Smith one more chance and cutting Chris Long. I don't see Chris Long giving us anything. You have plenty of veteran leadership with Brandon Graham and Vinny Curry. And now you've got a top-end defensive end in Derek Barnett, and or potentially a top-end defensive end in Derek Barnett. And Marcus Smith is still physically more gifted than Chris Long. I just see someone as physically gifted as Marcus Smith, and I say, why not let him play out his rookie contract? Maybe he does give you something this year, but if he doesn't, he's just he's a depth defensive end who gets it into the rotation. So in my mind,
for those for those people that don't really follow the whole 53-man roster, how many defensive ends do teams usually keep?
Well, I think it's probably somewhere between 4 and 6. Here's the thing, John. There's no set.
Marcus.
Yeah, they could. But I do think Marcus Smith, if they're going to keep both, Marcus Smith has to give you a lot on special teams, and I don't know how much he's actually going to give you there. Whether he should or he shouldn't is irrelevant. There's should and shouldn't, and there's is and isn't. And I don't think Marcus Smith is a good special teams player, regardless whether he should be or not. I would look at this like, let's keep 4 defensive ends. I would say 5. Let's keep 5 defensive ends, keep, 4 defensive tackles, and be considering that Jim Schwartz wants to come in waves. And in that wide 9 without blitzing, he wants defensive ends to stay fresh. So you have to look at it, John. If you're going to keep, 6 or 5 defensive ends, at least 1 or 2 of them have to help you a lot in special teams. And defensive end isn't historically a position that's a lifeblood for the special teams. Generally, that's linebacker, that's tight end, that's wide receiver, safety, corner. Those are the positions that are going to give you a lot historically in special teams. And that's where guys like Ike Reese and Najee Good and Mac Hollins, and more recently, Chris Maragos, Jason Jason Short or Smart back in the day, who was a special teams guy for the Eagles. For number 52, and I think 2005, 2006. Was it Short or Smart? It was one or the other, but he was a special teams guy for the Eagles back in the day. But the lifeblood of special teams in the NFL are generally those positions, particularly linebacker. And see defensive ends doing those things. Now, Marcus Smith has played some outside linebacker in a 3-4 system, certainly is athletic enough to do so or be a special teams guy. But it is interesting to see what is he going to bring to the table and can he help you in special teams. If he doesn't, I mean, I know Chris Long won't. I would honestly rather keep Marcus Smith around for one more year. I just don't – now that you have Derek Barnett, I just don't see a reason to keep Chris Long around. So in my mind, keep 5 or 4 or 5 and get rid of Chris Long and maybe you keep another young guy who can help you on special teams, maybe an undrafted guy that I'm not aware of right now. But I'm telling you, Chris Long's not going to give you too much in regular defensive football, and he'll give you absolutely nothing on special teams. So who knows how it all plays out, but I think no matter how you cut it, I think Chris Long was going to be there if they didn't get Derek Barnett, but now that they did, there's no reason to keep him. So let's move on from Chris Long. So I would say, again, between 4 and 5 in my mind of how many defensive ends you'll keep.
Jason Short was the guy you were looking for, and he's actually from this neck of the woods where I'm at in Cleveland, from Painesville, Ohio, so Northeast Ohio kid.
He was a special teams ace. I remember him. But the point is, guys, is that, like I said, the lifeblood of special teams are typically linebackers, fullbacks, those bigger body guys, tweeners, somewhere between the real big physical guys and the athletic guys. And then you'll round them out with safeties and corners and receivers. I'm in either offensive or defensive.
What are the odds do you think they throw more money at Brandon Graham?
Wow, that's interesting. I don't think it's very high the way the cap situation's working right now. I do think if assuming they move on from Michael Kendricks after June 1st, even then you're going to need at least what, $5.5 million to sign your rookies, something like that. So they got to get to that number. And then after all of that, if you can work some money around, maybe throw some more guaranteed money at him, sure. I mean, I wouldn't mind it at all. I love Brandon Graham. I think he's one of my favorite Eagles right now. I love what he brings to the table. Do I think he deserves the money? Sure. Do I understand why he wants more money? Absolutely. There are no guaranteed contracts in the NFL. You got to get what you can get when you can get it. But do I think realistically that'll happen? Probably not. I just don't know if they have the money. I think if they had the money to do it, I think they would. But I don't think they do. Or who knows what will happen after June 1st. Again, you need $5.5 million for your rookies.
Evan and I are going to now talk a little more fun topic. Evan loves getting jerseys. Not sure what jerseys Evan's going to get for Christmas or his birthday this year. But we do know what the rookies will be wearing come this season. Derek Barnett, he's going to be wearing 96. Kind of a boring number, but Benny Logan used to have this number. Evan, Derek Barnett might be the future of the Eagles wearing 96. What do you think of him picking that number?
I think it's a nice number. It's a nice even number. It's certainly one that I can get used to. I think he would have looked a lot cooler in 90, but Marcus Smith is still on the team. I think if they cut Marcus, you could see Derek Barnett moving over to 90 because he wore number 9 in college, and often players want to keep similar numbers that they had. So I have no problem with it. I certainly don't think it'll look ugly, but I really liked Benny Logan, and I think it's a little quick to give a potentially a starter, a former starter's numbers. So I wasn't great with it. But I think it's okay.
We're going to go next. I love this one. 22 going to Sidney Jones. I mean, 22 has a special spot in Philadelphia Eagles fans for our generation. Of course, Deuce Staley will rock 22. And then Asante Samuel, who is one of the best corners in our lifetime for the Philadelphia Eagles. So I love Jones taking 22. How about you, Evan?
I think it's okay. I think 22 is an okay-looking number. It certainly is a sleek number. I think he'll look fine in it. I thought he was going to go with 26, but Jalen Watkins has it. So until they kind of figure out some type of price or whatever to sell it, I think 22 works fine. And I agree with you, John. It is definitely a special number for the Philadelphia Eagles. Cecilio Hansen wore 22 at one point, John.
Oh, that's a name I don't want to hear, though.
We'll see. Here's the thing, John. If Sidney's not on the field, who cares what number he's wearing?
I love your Sidney Jones.
Be careful what you wish for, John.
I love your Jones cheap shots. 32 going to Rasul Douglas. 32 is my favorite number. I was a big fan of Rasul Douglas getting picked in the 3rd round, so I love 32 on Rasul Douglas.
Oh, I love it too. I think it looks really cool. I loved it on Eric Rowe. I thought it looked really cool, and I think it looked really cool on Rasul Douglas. It's a cool number for somebody who's a ball hawk, a big physical mauling corner like Rasul is, and I think it'll be fun. And I think we're gonna get used to seeing Rasul Douglas play a lot, and we'll see him rocking number 32.
Ricky Waters and Michael Lewis had 32 as well, right?
Who for what? Ricky Waters.
What?
For who for what? Ricky Waters. You don't remember that?
Yeah.
For who for what? Ricky Waters.
Here's a number I can't stand on Matt Collins. He's taking number 10. When I think of 10, I think of speedster like Deshaun Jackson because we watched Jackson wear number 10 for so long. And
Matt Collins is a deep threat.
I know it's a deep threat, but I think of like little guy number 10. And I told Evan this in the past. I've never said it on the podcast. I hate it when receivers don't wear numbers in the 80s. I think every receiver and tight end should wear 80s. I hate when quarterbacks are the teens, not wide receivers.
When I think of number 10, John, I think of Coy Detmer. So I don't really think of Deshaun Jackson. I think of Coy. So I think it works fine for Matt Collins. I think he would have looked really cool, number 88 or a big number for a big receiver. But number 10 will be fine. I mean, I really think the Philadelphia fans are going to love Matt Collins. I mean, even if he never catches a pass, I think he's that special on special teams. So, yeah, I don't care what number he wears. I don't care if he wears number 674. He's playing well.
What do you think it might take? I only want receivers wearing 80s.
I don't know, John. I mean, at this point, I do agree with you to a degree that I think 80s look better than teens, and I think too many receivers are rocking the teen numbers too much now. But, I mean, that being said, John, you have to go back to what, like the 90s the last time receivers only wore 80s? So it's been so long, that I don't really even mind it. I do think it's in style or in vogue for receivers to want to go into the teens. But I still think 88 is the coolest receiver number ever. And it's a shame that the Eagles don't have a number 88 for a big receiver.
They have an 88.
Huh?
They have an 88.
Who is it?
Trey Burton.
Is it Trey Burton? Yeah, Trey Burton. Yeah, but I mean, he's not a receiver.
But I mean,
he was 47. I thought he looked really cool at number 47. I don't know. We'll see how he works that out. I think 47 looks great for a smaller tight end.
Here's the funny one. Donnell Humphrey taking 34. And when I think of 34, I think more of a bruiser. And Humphrey's rocking it. So what do you think of Humphrey at 34?
Well, yeah, I thought it was a little interesting. I do think it's funny that Darren Sproles is 43 and you flip those numbers for DJ and now he's 34 and they're supposed to be very similar players. So it's almost like they mirror each other well. So we'll see how that works. But DJ, honestly, I thought DJ would wear like a number actually either in one extreme or the other. I was expecting either a number in the low 20s or a number in the 40s. So this was one that I agree with you, John. I think it's going to look a little gross on DJ, but we'll see what happens. I think like you said, John, it's better for a bigger running back or a safety. So we'll see where it fits in. But I do agree with you that I think he'll look a little weird in 34.
Here we go. Here's something I'm happy about. Shelton Gibson wearing 80. Wide receiver wearing a number in the 80s. Way to go, Shelton.
Well, John, I think if anything, I think Shelton Gibson should be wearing a speedster receiver thing. No. And if he's catching touchdowns, I could care less what number he's wearing, but we'll see.
Here we also got this is such a boring number. 47 going to Nathan Gary. I mean, Evan and I debated if he's even going to make the team. 47, boring number, but obviously, I mean, safeties. slash linebackers, I mean, it's kind of up in the air what you're going to wear.
He's not a safety, John. He's a linebacker.
Yeah.
So, and I think 40s, actually, I think the numbers in the 40s work really well for linebackers. We saw it in, we certainly saw it in Atlanta with Jones rocking 49. So I think Nate Gary will look pretty cool, but I also think, John, if there's somebody who's going to get cut in this draft class, it's going to be Nate Gary. So I think realistically, it's the number we're really only, talking about in the preseason, because I'm not convinced that Nate Gary is going to make this team. So I think if there's one position that doesn't matter, it's Nate Gary, because, again, I don't see him making this team. But 47, I think it looked really cool on Trey Burton as a tight end. I don't think it looks cool on a linebacker. I thought 49 would look really cool on a linebacker, but that's just me.
And here you go. This is so defensive tackle. It hurts. Elijah Qualls at 98. I mean, that's defensive tackle. 98 DT right there. I mean, that's defensive tackle. 98. I love it.
What number is he again, John?
98. Elijah Qualls, 98.
Ooh, 98. Person, Brandon. I think actually, you know what? I think that's right. Ali, I've heard about Qualls says that he have a better year. And it's a great pick for the Eagles. Actually, ended up making a name for himself with number 98. So, you know what? As long as he's playing well. Oh, obviously Connor Barwin is there. So, Connor Barwin was number 98. So, let's roll tide. Roll tide with number 98, Elijah Qualls.
All right, it's now time for everyone's favorite game, the good, bad, and the ugly. Evan, since it was NBA draft lottery tonight, I will throw a sixer at you. He wasn't on the team for 2 years. I know you like the rule 2 years, but you love this guy, so I know you have plenty to talk about him. But you love this dude, KJ McDaniels.
Ooh, KJ McSlamuels or KJ O'Daniels? KJ McDaniels. Man, what a dunking machine KJ McDaniels was. I guess the good with KJ is how athletic he was. He really did a great job of pushing transition well. I thought he was a nice defensive stopper. Obviously, he jumped out of the gym. I thought he had a lot of upside ability. I would say the bad with him was his mother. I know she caused a lot of problems. She used to yell at the Sixers bench from behind the stands. That's some real junior high school basketball stuff. I mean, I run into that, and I know people don't like me talking about this, but I run into that kind of stuff when I'm coaching high school lacrosse. Humble brag there, John. But I do think – I do think that's a really in poor taste for his mother, kind of ripping the fan base, and ripping the team while his son's playing on the team. And then he only signed a 1-year deal, basically said he wasn't coming back. Then the Sixers traded him to Houston. He's never been able to get off the bench since. I actually think he got traded again, didn't he? I don't think KJ's on Houston anymore.
I don't even know what happened to KJ McDaniels. I'll look up his stats while you talk about more stuff about him.
So I would say the good with KJ, again, is physical upside. I really thought he jumped out of the gym. Great defender, had a lot of physical ability. The bad is the way he handled his time in Philadelphia, the way his family handled his time, and I think his inability to trust the process has led to him, his time in Houston. And I think the ugly, John, and this is the one that I will personally hold a grudge with, is when he was on the Sixers, he was not selected to the 2015 NBA Slam Dunk competition, and I thought he should have been. So I wanted to see a Sixer in there. The last time we saw him was Andre Iguodala, who gave us a great show back in 2007, I believe. And I thought KJ McDaniels would have looked really cool. So I thought that was a shame.
So here's the KJ McDaniels career. Started in Toronto, averaged about 21 minutes a game and 8 points a game with Toronto. Goes to Philly, averages 9 points a game and 25 minutes a game. Gets traded to Houston, averages about 5 minutes a game, averaging about 2 points a game. Goes back to Toronto, gets 4 points a game, averaging about 10 minutes a game, gets traded back to Houston, gets 3 points.
Does he really?
Yeah. 3 points a game, 7 minutes a game. Then he goes to the Brooklyn Nets, where he's getting 15 minutes a game and 6 points. So he's getting 6 points a game on the worst team in the NBA right now. So from 2014, from the beginning of the 2015 season to the end of the 2017 season, he went from Toronto to Philly to Houston to Toronto, back to Houston to Brooklyn.
Well, it goes to show you should have trusted the process. KJ should have trusted the process. Should have stayed in Philly.
Wow, that's tough to keep track of. I mean, pictures just keep on how much he had to change apartments.
John, are you sure he ever played for Toronto?
Yeah.
What I have here is he's been in Houston for 3 years, Sixers for 1 year, and this year he was traded. He was traded to the Brooklyn Nets this offseason, and before that he was spending time in Houston. So I'm not entirely sure that he was in Toronto. It's neither here nor there. The point is he should have been in the 2015 slam dunk competition. That's what really matters.
But he's been on every team possible. But anywho, who do you have for me?
John, all right. So this is I really struggle with this week's one. And I thought to myself, how can I stump John the best? How can I make John look as bad as possible on this podcast? And I thought I'd give him a name that's a big name, but I know you won't be able to come up with anything for this guy. So I'm trying to stump you, John. Hank Fraley.
Hank Fraley. I mean,
Philadelphia Eagles.
Obviously. Hold on. I'm looking at. I wonder why his Basketball Reference has TOT before it. That's weird. Anywho, he was on Toronto for some time. But back to Hank Fraley. Fraley was, the center that ran the show. He was probably the best offensive lineman with the Eagles. Probably the best lineman we saw growing up. But let's see. He got involved in politics as well.
You are looking things up online.
No, I'm not.
You are looking things up online. You keep your hands up, John.
Evan, I'm a news reporter. I know that Hank Fraley ran for politics. You don't think that was always talked about? Oh, former Philadelphia player running for politics. Of course it is.
John, you're up there Google.
So obviously those are.
John, you up in here Googling. You can't be Googling in the good, the bad, the ugly.
And the thing is, though, when you think of offensive linemen from that Donovan McNabb era, you don't think Hank Fraley, you think John Runyon. So, he was all right. He wasn't, bad, but he was just all right. A fine starter.
All right, John. So I stumped you, in other words. You got nothing.
How is that nothing? I said he ran for office. He was a starter with the best offensive linemen. And he was just all right. He wasn't anything special, but he still was good enough to be a starter. But he wasn't great, but he got what needed to be done, and you knew what you're going to get from him.
All right, man. All right, I guess I'll give it to you, John. You talked your way out of a corner. Congratulations, Sean.
But we're going to go with my Philadelphia memorabilia for the week. I brought this out for the draft. It may have jinxed the Sixers not being the first overall pick. But hip-hop. It's a hip-hop toy. So here's hip-hop. He's no longer the Sixers mascot. But this was the mascot the 76ers grew up with, and you get it. Hip-hop. He's a rabbit. So,
John, I love hip-hop. I love hip-hop with a passion. I hate the new dog. I miss hip-hop. I love the whole motorcycle, urban bunny with a leather fetish. Like the dominatrix bunny that they rolled out at Sixers games. I loved hip hop. Actually, John, I think I have. Do I still have it? I used to. Oh, here it is right here. Check this out, John.
Wow, hip hop bobblehead. Wow.
This is an old school hip hop bobblehead from about 2001.
I feel like you and I got this at a Sixers game we both went to together.
Really? I don't remember that. I don't remember the hip hop thing that you got, but
I have two
I
of
could
them.
be wrong.
I have two of them in my house, and I have no idea how I got them. But Evan, they got the hip hop right. They got the blue hip hop. Your favorite jersey.
I do like the blue jerseys. All right, John. So for my jersey of the week, I actually had to go run to my closet to switch up my jersey to go with the theme of the show, John. But my jersey of the week,
KJ McDaniels. Oh my gosh.
KJ McDaniels, Philadelphia 76ers. I was so sure that he was going to be a player for the Sixers initially, and I just loved him. And they traded him after half a season. This KJ McDaniels is the new Larry Hughes.
One of you when you posted you wearing that picture at a Sixers game when you first got it.
You did,
Who
John.
talked about saying? I did.
You always.
I was a hater of the jersey when Evan bought it. I don't believe you spent money on KJ McDaniels' jersey, and I was right. That jersey didn't even last 2 months.
John, this is a cool jersey. In another 10 years, this will be a really cool jersey.
Oh, man, yeah. So cool. He played a whole 3 months with the Sixers.
You're just jealous. My other jersey of the week, the one I was originally going to go with, John, because John was making fun of me, is a Priest Holmes Kansas City Chiefs jersey.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, you're a big Chiefs fan. You love Andy Reid.
John, what do you like better, KJ McDaniels or Priest Holmes?
KJ McDaniels. At least it's Philadelphia.
Priest Holmes, though, John. It's the Priest.
Yeah, you know me. I only like Philadelphia jerseys.
John, who did Priest Holmes back up before he became a starter in Kansas City? I'll give you a hint. He won a Super Bowl.
No.
Jamal Lewis.
Jamal
Lewis with the Baltimore Ravens in 2000.
Oh, Priest Holmes was on the Ravens?
Yes, he was. He was the backup running back before he ended up.
Was he on the Super Bowl team?
Huh?
Was Priest Holmes on the Super Bowl team that won?
He was on the team that won the Super Bowl. Yes, he was. Out of the University of Texas. He's a Longhorn.
Wow. Okay.
So that's some food for thought there, John.
By the way, real food for thought. Something interesting. When I came home to Philadelphia this weekend, I love going to Modell's. I mean, Evan will tell you, every time I go to the King of Prussia Mall, I drag him to Modell's because it's like my favorite store ever. And I went to other sporting goods stores as well. Lots of Aguilar jerseys. Why are there so many Nelson Aguilar jerseys? Who's buying these? Or were these Aguilar jerseys?
They're all on sale. They're trying to get rid of them because he changed his number.
Aguilar's no longer. Oh, yeah, Jeffrey.
That's why. That's why they do that stuff. Come on, John, pay attention.
Yeah, that's why. Okay. Wow. I didn't even see a price, like a sale price on it. Oh, God. How much would you pay for a Nelson Aguilar jersey?
You have to pay me, John.
So I will not get you that for your birthday.
John, if you got me a Nelson Aguilar jersey, get me an Alshon Jeffrey one.
Go, football talk fans. We got to get Evan an Alshon Jeffrey jersey for his.
Let's start a GoFundMe and get me an Alshon Jeffrey jersey.
Yeah, you get 5 jerseys every Christmas and birthday.
I do. At least get one every year.
What do you call it? What are jerseys, like $100 nowadays?
Oh, it all depends, John. A replica will run you about $100. A replicentic one will be about $150 to $200. Then the authentics start going into threes. You start seeing the authentics is
$20, Evan.
Yeah, but jerseys are for you got one foot in the pool, John. You gotta break some eggs if you want to make an omelet. You want to look cool, you got to spend some money. I don't know what to tell you.
I'm a jersey guy. I'm all about the jerseys.
I know you are, John, because you got one foot in the pool.
Well, I don't want to spend $100 on a jersey and then that player gets traded. Look at my track record for Eagles. My track record for Eagles jerseys with David Akers, Terrell Owens, Deshaun Jackson, Nick Foles. They all ended up leaving right after I got their jersey.
But still, those are some really cool, like old school throwback obscure jerseys. Obscure jerseys look cool.
Well, how can I wear a David Akers jersey? How is that cool?
David Akers is like the best kicker in Eagles history. I think that's their coolest jersey.
I mean, I probably wear the T.O. and Deshaun the most because I love those two.
John, it's not what you wear, it's how you wear it. If you wear a David Akers jersey all self-conscious, you'll look weird. It's not what you wear, it's how you wear it. You got to have some confidence, buddy. It rubs off on people.
But we're going to end the podcast on this note because Evan's going to be all happy about this, and it's going to be him making fun of mock drafts. Chad Ford, ESPN insider, his first mock draft after the lottery. Sixers taking Kentucky guard Malik Monk. So there you go, Evan. There you go.
Do the right thing, Colangelo. Do the right thing.
Did you talk to Chad Ford before this? Did you call the ESPN up and be like, give me Chad Ford? Or did he call you?
He's hiding in my bathroom right now. We're about to go get dinner at Chili's.
You got to get the chicken crispers, the honey chipotle chicken crispers.
Actually, John, I think I might get a ribeye with some nice citrus rice and some broccoli.
Maybe let everybody know, if you go to Chili's with Evan, he will not do the 2 for $20 deal with you. So that was very upsetting. We could have got a free appetizer with our 2 for $20, but Evan
John,
didn't want to play.
Go to Chili's, I'm going to get what I want to have. Maybe I'll get some Southwestern egg rolls with you, but that's it.
Yep. So there you go. If you ever go to Chili's with Evan, don't expect to do 2 for $20.
Can't handle the heat. Stay out of the kitchen. Get what I want.
But we'll catch you all next week. Hopefully some Philadelphia sports news happens. It's been a real dead week, but remember, make the right pick at 3.
Kisses, John.